The rusted star was not a clean place. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. Caught in the glow of old yellow lights, the floor creaked with every step, and the walls were covered in graffiti from 10 different planets. The bar sat on the edge of a dead asteroid in the neutral zone, far from the laws of any government. It was a place where smugglers, bounty hunters, and war veterans came to drink and forget, most days. Trouble stayed outside, but today was not most days. Inside the bar, silence fell. Even the jukebox in the corner stopped playing on its own. Everyone looked toward the door. Two figures walked in. The first was a tall man in dark armor, his face cold and hard. His movements were quiet, careful. His name was Commander Elias Rourke, a human from Earth also known as a Deathworlder. He had survived wars, explosions, and near-death missions. People said Earth was one of the deadliest places in the galaxy, and humans like him were not to be messed with. The second was even taller, nearly touching the doorway. His thick green scales shimmered under the dim lights. His arms were massive, with long claws at the ends. His sharp eyes moved slowly, taking in every corner of the bar. He was Skelvek from Threxa's Prime, a world filled with acid rain and giant beasts. Even other Deathworlders feared the Threxins. No one said a word. Glasses were frozen in midair. Conversation stopped. Some even held their breath. The two Deathworlders looked at each other, then walked to the bar and sat side by side. The bartender, a thin gray alien with 6 fingers named Riello, looked nervous but didn't dare say anything. He poured them drinks without asking. A dark blue liquid for Skelvek, and a strong Terran whiskey for Rourke. Still, they said nothing. They only drank in a corner booth. A group of mercenaries watched with interest. One of them leaned forward. "Isn't that the human who blew up the Black Moon Station?" "Yeah," another whispered. "And the lizard, that's Skelvek. He ripped a bounty hunter in half last cycle." The leader of the group, a one-eyed alien with cybernetic legs, grinned. "This is gonna be good. Bet you 100 credits." The human throws the first punch. Others joined in the bet. The air grew thick with tension. At the bar, Rourke looked at his glass. "Not bad," he said. Skelvek didn't reply. He simply let out a low growl that could have meant anything. Another alien, dressed in fancy robes, walked up to them. He was a diplomat from a peaceful planet, known for his long speeches and lack of sense. "Gentlemen," he said with a smile, "perhaps this establishment is too small for the both of you?" Rourke didn't move. He sipped his drink. The diplomat continued, "Surely it is dangerous for two warriors such as yourselves to sit together." What if before he could finish, Rourke spoke? "Just one word, leave." The diplomat froze. His face turned pale. He stepped back without another word and quickly disappeared into the crowd. The room got quieter. Then, something unexpected happened. A small trader stumbled toward the bar. He was carrying a datapad and a stack of cargo logs, nervous and clumsy. He dropped the datapad near Rourke's feet. Sorry, he said, reaching for it, but Rourke was faster. He picked it up. Just a quick glance at the screen and his eyes narrowed. Skelvek leaned closer to look. His jaw tightened. The datapad showed something terrible. Blueprints for a galactic superweapon. A massive device capable of wiping out planets, one that was believed to have been destroyed years ago. And now, the plans were here. In this bar, the traders saw their faces and panicked. "I didn't know what it was, I swear. I just deliver the stuff." Rourke handed the datapad back. Quietly, "Be careful what you carry," he said. The trader ran out the back door, shaking. Riello, the bartender, had seen it too. His eyes darted toward the security room behind the bar. Without saying anything, he stepped into the back and pressed a red button. A silent alarm was triggered. The bar's doors slowly locked with a loud clunk. The windows darkened. A soft robotic voice spoke over the speakers. "Lockdown initiated. No exit permitted." Gasps filled the room. A few tried the door. It wouldn't budge. Rourke didn't move. Neither did Skelvek. The mercenaries stood up, looking around. "What's going on?" one shouted. Riello came back out, pretending to clean a glass. Just a little system check. Nothing to worry about, but everyone knew better. Skelvek leaned toward Rourke. They know, he said in a deep voice. Rourke nodded once. Let them come. Behind them, a group of bounty hunters whispered into their comms. Somewhere, a hidden buyer was already on their way, and in the Rusted Star. Trouble was just getting started. The Rusted Star was now locked tight. The air inside felt heavy. Some aliens tried to act normal, pretending to sip their drinks or play card games. But their eyes kept going back to the two Deathworlders at the bar. Commander Elias Rourke sat still, calm like a soldier who had seen too many battles. His eyes scanned the room slowly. He could feel the tension, like a wire pulled tight and ready to snap. Beside him, Skelvek didn't move either. His thick arms rested on the bar. His claws tapped slowly, one by one, on the wooden surface. The tapping made a quiet rhythm, like a warning drum. In the far corner, the mercenary group grew louder. I still say the human will punch first, said the one-eyed leader, smiling as he loaded his weapon under the table. No way, replied another. The lizard's got murder in his eyes. They all laughed quietly, but the laughter had no joy. They were scared. Deep inside, they knew the bar was now a trap, and they were all caught in it. At the bar, Riello the bartender wiped his forehead. He spoke softly, trying to sound casual. You boys want anything else? Rourke shook his head. We're just waiting. Riello looked confused. Waiting for who? Rourke gave a small smile. You'll see. Suddenly, the bar's door opened, not to let someone in, but to toss someone out. A big alien guard pushed a weak, drunk trader onto the floor. The trader had tried to sneak out through the ventilation shaft. No one leaves, said the guard. The trader groaned, crawling to a table. I just wanted to go home. The customers now realized the truth. This wasn't a simple lockdown. Something bigger was happening. Rourke and Skelvek both knew it. They had seen the blueprints. They had felt the change in the room. The weapon plans were real, and someone in the bar wanted to sell them. Rourke turned slightly. How long do you think we have? Skelvek's eyes glowed slightly. Not long. The broker is fast. Rourke nodded. Then we make this quick. In a small booth near the back, a trader was pretending to play cards. But under the table, he sent a secret signal on his wrist. -com. Target is in place. Plans confirmed. Begin process. From the ceiling, a tiny insect-shaped drone buzzed down and moved toward the Deathworlders. It was small, silent, and carried a dart filled with nerve poison. But before it could even aim, Skelvek's tongue flicked out like lightning and caught it midair. He crushed it with a soft snap and dropped it into his drink. The bar went dead silent again. Someone's getting nervous, Rourke said. He stood up slowly. Skelvek stood too. The crowd moved back at once, giving them space. We're not here for a fight, Rourke said, looking around the room. We're here for the plans. Hand them over now, and this ends quietly. No one moved. Skelvek's voice rumbled through the bar. We are not the most dangerous thing in this room, but we will become it. From the back, the one-eyed mercenary stood. Or maybe we just take you down and sell the plans ourselves. He raised his gun. Before he could fire, a chair flew across the room and hit him square in the face. He dropped. Like a rock, everyone turned to see who threw it. It was the old janitor. He was shaking, holding another chair. I don't want no fighting in here, he said. For a second, the room was frozen. Then chaos broke out. The marks jumped to their feet. Some tried to grab the plans. Others pointed weapons at Rourke and Skelvek. Rourke moved fast. He grabbed a table and flipped it over for cover. Shot fired, missing his head by inches. Skelvek let out a roar and leapt into the air, smashing down onto Marks with both fists. The floor cracked beneath them. Aliens screamed. Drinks flew. Lights shattered. In the middle of the madness, Riello ducked behind the bar. This is a nightmare. Rourke rolled across the floor and kicked a blaster out of someone's hand. He punched another in the chest and knocked the wind out of him. Skelvek caught a table midair and threw it like a disc, knocking down 3 more attackers. The group that had been placing bets earlier, they were now crawling under tables, trying to survive. In just 1 minute, the bar looked like a war zone. Then, as quickly as it started. The shooting stopped. Rourke stood in the middle, breathing hard, dust on his armor. Around him were groaning marks and broken chairs. Skelvik wiped blood from his claws. Still not the most dangerous thing. No, Rourke said. Just warming up. Riello peeked over the bar again. You destroyed half my place. Rourke picked up a small credit chip from a knocked-out thief and tossed it at him. That should cover the damage. Then came a beep. A new voice echoed from a hidden speaker above the door. Very good. Commander, you saved me the trouble of cleaning the place myself. Everyone looked up. The broker had arrived. The lights in the rusted star dimmed even further. A red glow spread across the walls, giving everything a sharp and dangerous look. The voice on the speaker repeated with a quiet laugh. Very good, Commander. You saved me the trouble, Commander. Elias Rourke stood still. His ears picked up every sound. The slow hum of the locked door, the crackle of broken lights, the weak breathing of wounded mercenaries around him. Skelvik stood beside him, silent but alert, his long claws ready again. Who's speaking? Shouted Riello. Duck behind the bar again. You're not allowed to hack my system. The voice answered, smooth and cold. I don't care about your system, bartender. I only care about the plans and the two who came for them. Rourke looked up. That voice belongs to the broker, he said. Skelvik gave a low growl. He was not supposed to be here himself. He isn't, Rourke replied. That's a remote signal. He's watching from somewhere else. Above them, the speaker buzzed again. I had planned to meet my buyer in secret, quiet and clean. But now, thanks to you two, things are messy. I hate messes. I hate liars, Rourke said flatly. Somewhere in the shadows, a small black orb floated from the ceiling. It hovered slowly. Scanning the room, everyone stayed low or ducked away. From it had one red light blinking. Surveillance drone Skelvek's eyes followed it carefully. He's watching through that, he said. Let him watch, Rourke replied. He's about to see something he didn't plan. Suddenly, the door behind the bar opened. 5 tall figures walked in, wearing dark armor and full helmets. Their suits were smooth and heavy. No one could see their faces. Broker's private guards, Rourke muttered. They don't speak. They don't stop. And they don't leave witnesses. The guards spread across the room in silence. One of them moved toward the traitor who dropped the datapad earlier. The traitor tried to explain, but the guard simply lifted him and threw him across the room. He crashed into a table and didn't move again. Riello screamed, You can't do this. This is a public place. The speaker laughed again. It was. Now it's mine. Rourke stepped forward. You're not getting the plans. You're not getting anything. The guard closest to him turned its head. A soft sound came from inside the helmet. Then the guard raised its arm. Built-in weapon glowed blue. But before it could fire, Skelvik moved. The Threxian charged like a storm, slamming his full weight into the armored figure. The guard flew across the room and smashed into the wall. Sparks burst from the armor. The other guards turned at once, weapons ready. Blast fired. Rourke dived, rolled behind a table, and returned fire. His shots were precise, hitting weak points. In the armor, one guard fell, his chest plate burning. The customers, still able to move, ran for cover. Some shouted, others cried. But no one dared move toward the door. It was still sealed. Keep them back. Rourke shouted to Skelvik. The Threxian didn't answer. He was busy tearing a metal pipe off the wall and swinging it like a club. He struck one guard so hard the helmet cracked and flew off. Inside was a pale, human-like face, but with black eyes and no mouth. Clone, Skelvik said. That's new, Rourke replied, reloading. Riello crawled to a corner, covering his head. Why is this happening in my bar? The drone above moved again, watching every second. Then the broker's voice returned. You're very good, Rourke. Earth trained you well. But this isn't a rescue mission. It's a graveyard. You and your pet lizard just dug your own. Strange, Rourke replied aloud. I was thinking the same about you. 2 guards tried to flank him. Rourke leaped over the counter and shot one in the leg, then the head. Skelvik crushed the last with a roar. Tossing the body across the bar. The room fell quiet again. Only the hum of broken lights and Riello's shaking could be heard. The floating drone stopped above Rourke. "Is that all you've got?" he asked the ceiling. The drone responded by flashing red and then exploded. The blast sent fire across the bar. Rourke flew backward into a wall. Skelvek was thrown onto a broken table. The ceiling cracked and sparks fell everywhere. Rourke groaned, trying to stand. Blood ran from his forehead. Skelvek's voice came low. "He's willing to destroy the bar, just to kill us." The smoke thickened. Riello coughed, yelling. "There's an emergency exit in the storage room." Rourke helped him up. "Get the civilians out, now." Riello nodded and ran toward the back. Skelvek joined Rourke at the bar. "He won't stop now." "I know," Rourke said. He picked up one of the guards' weapons, "which means we don't stop either." They looked around the damaged room. Fires burned low. The broker's voice was gone for now, but he was still watching, still planning. And they knew the worst was yet to come. The fire was dying, but smoke still filled the air inside the rusted star. The bar looked like a battlefield now. Broken tables, smashed lights, and scorched walls. Most of the guests had already escaped through the storage room's hidden exit. Led by the frightened bartender Riello, only a few remained behind. Too greedy, too foolish, or too slow. Commander Rourke wiped blood from his face. His muscles ached, but his grip on the stolen guard weapon stayed tight. Skelvek stood beside him, bruised and scratched but still strong. His scales had dark burn marks, but his eyes were clear and alert. "The broker didn't send more guards," Rourke said, scanning the bar, "which means he's sending the buyer." Skelvek finished, his voice low. A deep metallic clunk echoed through the bar. The main door, once sealed, was now opening. Everyone in the room froze. From the dark hallway outside, two figures stepped in. One was short and slim, wearing a smooth white cloak and a silver helmet that hid their face. The other was tall, with long arms and red skin, dressed in armor that looked both ancient and advanced. The one in white held a silver box. The buyer, the tall one, was the bodyguard. Even Rourke felt a cold chill run down his spine. "The Zereth," he whispered. Of course, the Zereth were not just another alien race. They were old, powerful, and dangerous. Long ago, they had ruled part of the galaxy with fear and weapons. They hated chaos, and they hated Deathworlders most of all. They believed that species like humans and Threxians were wild and uncontrollable, too dangerous to exist. "This explains everything," Rourke said. Skelvek's eyes narrowed. "He is selling the weapon plans to the Zereth." The broker's voice returned, now much clearer and louder, like he was standing in the room with them. But still, no one could see him. "Yes," he said. "The deal is simple. The plans in exchange for peace. The Zereth will use the weapon to wipe out the Deathworlders and finally restore order." "Peace through destruction," Rourke shouted. "You think that makes you a hero?" The voice laughed. "No, it makes me rich." The buyer in white stepped forward and opened the silver box. Inside was a glowing blue cube, humming with quiet energy. Rourke's heart sank. "That's not just payment. That's a beacon," Skelvek growled. "He's bringing in a fleet." Before they could move, the tall Zereth bodyguard raised his hand. A shockwave burst from his palm and through Rourke and Skelvek across the room. Rourke crashed into a wall, gasping for air. Skelvek hit the ground hard, but he rolled and got up fast. The buyer slowly walked toward the bar, holding the silver box. "The deal is happening now," the broker's voice said, "and this time, nobody will stop it." But then something unexpected happened. The bartender, Riello, returned. He had come back for something. Maybe his credits, maybe his pride. But when he saw the buyer in the cube, he didn't hide. He pulled out an old shotgun from behind the counter and aimed it with shaking hands. "I'm not letting you sell weapons in my bar," he said. The tall Zereth turned. His hand began to glow again. But before he could fire, Skelvek tackled him. The two giants fell into a pile of broken chairs. Skelvek roared as he slashed across the Zereth's chest. Sparks flew from the alien's armor. Rourke ran toward the buyer. The figure in white turned calmly, pressing a button on the box. The cube started glowing brighter. A low pulsing sound began. "It's calling a ship." Rourke shouted. The buyer lifted a small blaster, but Rourke shot first. The blaster flew out of the buyer's hand. The figure stumbled backward. Rourke grabbed the box and slammed it onto the ground. The cube rolled out, still pulsing with light. "Cover me," he shouted to Riello. Riello fired toward the buyer. Missing completely, but keeping them distracted, Rourke pulled a grenade from his belt. EMP should kill the signal. He pressed the grenade and tossed it onto the cube. A loud pop echoed. Sparks flew. The cube dimmed, then went completely dark. The beacon was dead. "No signal now," Rourke said. "No fleet, no deal." Skelvek slammed the Zerth bodyguard into a wall one last time. The alien collapsed with a groan. The buyer turned to run. But Riello, surprising everyone, hit them over the head with the shotgun. The buyer fell to the floor. Silence returned. The broker's voice came again, but this time it didn't sound calm. "You ruined everything." Rourke looked up. "Not yet, but we're not finished." Skelvek walked to the center of the room, dragging the unconscious buyer with one arm. "We have your buyer. We have your box," Skelvek said. "Come get them." But the broker didn't respond. Instead, the lights flickered. The floor shook slightly. Rourke's eyes widened. "He's going to blow the bar," Riello gasped. "What? Get out," Rourke ordered. Now, Skelvek threw the buyer over his shoulder. "We move." They ran for the back hallway, just as sparks began flying from the ceiling. Rourke looked back one last time. Smoke and fire were growing fast. The rusted star was dying. But so was the broker's plan. The rusted star shook violently as the fires inside grew stronger. Smoke curled around the broken tables and burned the air with a sharp, bitter taste. Commander Elias Rourke and Skelvek burst through the back hallway, dragging the unconscious buyer with them. The floor beneath their feet trembled. Sparks rained down from the ceiling as the bar fought against its own destruction. Riello, the bartender, was already leading a small group of survivors through a narrow service corridor that wound toward the asteroid's surface exit. His hand shook, but his eyes burned with determination. "Keep moving. Don't stop." Riello shouted over the roaring fire and cracking metal. Rourke followed closely. Covering their backs, weapon raised, Skelvek scanned the area for danger. Despite the chaos, their focus was sharp. The corridors were dark and narrow. Every step echoed in the cold metal hall. The group's breaths came fast, and fear was clear on every face. Suddenly, the lights flickered out, plunging the corridor into near darkness. "Emergency power," Riello called. "The systems are failing." A warning klaxon blared, loud and harsh. The sound made everyone jump. From the shadows, the masked guards of the broker appeared. Their dark armor gleamed even in the dim light. "Stop them." One growled through a mechanical voice modulator. Rourke raised his weapon. "Not happening." The guards charged, weapons blazing. Rourke fired first, his shots precise. 2 guards fell, their armor sparking. But more kept coming, their footsteps heavy and sure. Skelvek growled and met the attackers head-on. His claws ripped through armor plates and threw one guard into the wall. His thick tail swept the floor, knocking over another. The narrow corridor became a battleground. Riello ducked behind a control panel as blaster fire lit the walls. Rourke pulled a smoke grenade from his belt and tossed it into the middle of the guards. Thick gray smoke filled the corridor, making it hard to see. Skelvek roared and charged through the smoke, his powerful form smashing through enemies by sound alone. Rourke took the moment to push the survivors ahead. "Go. I'll hold them off." The survivors ran, coughing and scared, disappearing down the exit stairs. Rourke fought fiercely, every move quick and sure. He knocked one guard's weapon aside and punched him hard. Another tried to sneak behind but found Skelvek waiting with a crushing blow. After a fierce struggle, the remaining guards retreated. The corridor was silent again, save for heavy breathing and the distant fire. Rourke wiped sweat from his brow. "We lost too many," Skelvek nodded. "But the buyer is still with us." They hurried after the survivors. Outside the asteroid, The sky was black and full of stars. The exit door opened onto a rocky ledge overlooking the vast emptiness. Riello helped the weak and wounded down the ramp to safety. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed across the surface. A huge ship hovered above the broker's fleet was arriving. Rourke looked up, eyes sharp. "We don't have much time," Skelvek growled low. "We must fight or die." The survivors gathered behind cover. Weapons were checked and loaded. The broker's soldiers began to land, stepping onto the rocky ground with heavy boots. The battle began. Rourke and Skelvek moved like shadows in the night, attacking with speed and power. Rourke fired his rifle, picking off enemies before they could react. Skelvek ripped through soldiers with claws and strength no machine could match. The survivors fought bravely, inspired by the Deathworlders' courage. The broker's forces were many, but their confidence faded as their soldiers fell dead in the middle of the fight. Rourke saw the buyer stirring. The figure in white struggled to get up, trying to reach a hidden weapon. "Not today," Rourke said. He charged and knocked the buyer down again. Skelvek joined, pinning the buyer to the ground. The broker's voice crackled through a communicator. "This isn't over," it said. "You may have won today, but the galaxy is bigger than your little bar." Rourke looked at Skelvek and nodded. "Then we'll be ready." With the buyer captured and the plans destroyed, the fight finally slowed. The survivors cheered quietly, grateful to live another day. Rourke and Skelvek stood together, bruised and tired, but victorious. The rusted star may be in ruins, but the spirit of the Deathworlders burned, brighter than ever. The rocky surface of the asteroid was cold beneath their feet. The battle had quieted, but the air was thick with smoke and tension. Commander Elias Rourke stood over the unconscious buyer, his face marked with cuts and dirt. Beside him, Skelvek rested heavily against a jagged rock. His scales dulled from the fight, but his eyes sharp and watchful. The survivors from the bar gathered nearby, still shaken but alive. The distant hum of approaching law enforcement ships grew louder in the starry sky. Rourke wiped sweat from his brow and looked at Skelvek. "We stopped the sale. The plans are destroyed. The broker's deal is dead," Skelvek growled softly. "But the broker is still out there, somewhere." "True," Rourke said. "But today, we won." Riello, the bartender, approached slowly, still trembling. "I don't know what you two are," he said, "but I owe you my life, and this place. My home." Rourke gave a small nod. "We just did what had to be done." Suddenly, a ship landed nearby, flashing blue lights. Galactic law enforcement arrived, surrounding the area quickly. Officers moved in, taking the captured buyer and injured guards into custody. One officer approached Rourke. "Commander Elias Rourke, we've heard of you. Glad you showed up." Rourke nodded briefly. "I'm here to make sure the threat is finished." The officer glanced at Skelvek. "And your friend, a Phyrexian from a death world," Rourke said. "He's my partner." The officer smiled. "Good. We'll need all the help we can get." As the law enforcement secured the area, Rourke and Skelvek took a moment to catch their breath. The battle had been brutal, but it had shown the strength of two beings forged in deadly worlds. They had stopped the threat that could have destroyed entire planets, but the galaxy was vast and dangers were many. Rourke looked at the ruined bar behind them. "The rusted star may be gone," Skelvek grunted, "but its story is just beginning." The two Deathworlders shared a look, one of respect and understanding born from countless battles and narrow escapes. "Ready for the next fight?" Rourke asked. Skelvek smiled with a sharp-toothed grin. "Always." As the first light of the asteroid's distant sun peeked over the horizon, they walked away, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as survivors. To Deathworlders who had walked into a bar and changed the fate of many.